Now, I want to talk about the point of what can I call it? I think a point in my life where things really started to take a turn in terms of how I perceive the world. What started this journey? What made me interested in ideas and stuff like that? Even though I believe that I have always had an interest in ideas, not just complicated ideas, but if most ideas are complicated if you dig deeper. Nowadays, we just use vague language to connect. You can't always be going to strangers and talking about complicated stuff. I want to talk about grade 9. What happened in grade 9? I think that's the year where I actually experienced severe depression, and not just experience, that's where it all started. What happened was I had a question. What people don't understand about the journey towards becoming a more sophisticated thinker, I'm not saying I am a sophisticated thinker, I'm talking about the parts of the phase in your life that starts that journey. It's not just a phase, it's a question. I think in my case, it was a question. I didn't just woke up one day, wake up one day and decide, I'm interested in ideas. No, I ask myself, why do people become homeless? How do people end up homeless? And this, I love this question because there's a lot of answers to this question, which are all right. But what led me to ask this question was I always, when I did in things when I was still growing up, having fun being a child, I didn't really think about this stuff deeply. And so the obvious thing that would come to mind is like, well, what if I end up homeless and I just wake up and I find myself homeless? Like it was not this thing that started small and then the next step and then the next step. I always felt like it was just a thing that happens. You just live your life, even though you do it right, and then suddenly you wake up to homeless. There are specific cases where that can happen, but it's not common. It's not common. I don't think it is. I think certain people who end up homeless, part of it is their fault, and some of them, most of it is their fault, but it's not always the case that it's their fault. So I wanted to see how I can avoid ending up homeless. Right now, I'm not homeless. I have a home. I try to contribute and I respect my parents. It's not even about respecting your parents. Your parents are kind of, you are their responsibility, but it's not about that. When you become enough of a problem, they might decide to kick you out, which is why I say that some people, it is their fault that they are homeless. It can be the case that it can be the case that the parents are brutal and abusive. And it also can be the case that you are just a disrespectful, ungrateful skunk. I don't know, I didn't know which way to use. Skunk is the one that came to my mouth, not even my mind. A more offensive phrase came to mind when I was saying ungrateful and disrespectful son of a, you know. So I guess as so back to the fear of ending up homeless. What happened was I realized okay, there are different of paths in life someone can take that can make them end up homeless, such as the first one, the most obvious one, is drugs, weed included. I'm not sure about truth right now. There hasn't been an outbreak of people who smoke to ending up homeless. What I know is it all starts somewhere, which is why I promised myself that I will never smoke cigarettes. I have smoked herbally before. There was an incident which I'm not going to share, but which is not a reason to stop smoking herbally, but I decided to smoke herbally to reduce the chances of me having any kind of lung problems, because I believe that in life you should try your best to avoid doing things that are harmful to your health. Even though I'm struggling with some right now, I'm actively working on fixing them. And as I was saying, there are certain paths one can take in life where you end up homeless, and there are also certain paths. There's a wrong path you can take where you end up homeless, and there's a right path you can take. And if you are unlucky enough, you can end up homeless. And then there's a path you can take, a right path, where you actually don't end up homeless. The second one, where you do things right and still end up homeless, that one I do not like. But looking at my situation, I don't think I can end up in that situation. But life has many plot twists. However, the chances of that happening are significantly low, which gives me hope, that which reduces my fear of ending up homeless, because I don't like the idea of ending up home. I think homelessness is the worst kind of bottom you can reach. You can live with your unfaithful, miserable husband, or maybe your family. Well, there are specific situations where being homeless is, I don't like. See, why can't both cases be just worse, unacceptable, where you have a home and you're still suffering, and then you are homeless and you are still suffering? Those can just be classified as equally terrible circumstances. They don't have One doesn't have to be more miserable than the other. They can just be equal, because hell is a bottomless pit. Now, and I think through asking the question, how do people end up homeless? I ended up acquiring more knowledge and wisdom as a result, which is why I encourage people to ask questions, specific questions. And people who are close to me, some of them, they are not necessarily bothered, but they like pointing out that I ask questions a lot. Not necessarily a lot, but more. The questions I ask seem to be only relevant to me, because I don't like it when people talk about things and they don't become specific. Like someone sending you to buy something, they just tell you the name of the product. They don't specify the specific product that they are looking for. What bothers me is that people use this form of communication, form of request, even when it comes to serious things. And when it comes to serious things, being specific is actually important, because the person you are requesting to do something for you might make a mistake, in which case you are not allowed to blame them, because it is your fault that you did not specify what you were actually asking them to do, and how to do it, where to do it, and when to do it. Which is why when it comes to important stuff, specificity is important. I think that's all. Yes, I just mentioned specificity. Specificity in the case of the topic that I'm talking about, which is why do people end up homeless. I made the initial assumption that you can live life and things can simply just go wrong. But I've looked at my circumstances, I've looked at other people's circumstances, and I think I meet the minimum requirements to reduce my fear. I I didn't put that very articulate. Yes, I'm going to be monitoring my speech, my way of speaking consciously, so that one day I become this articulate person that I want to be. Even though I'm already kind of articulate, I just need to become more interesting and more informed, because right now Yes, I know a certain amount of things, but it's just general stuff, which is why I can't go too deep into some topics, which is why I like philosophy, because you can be general without compromising the importance of precision when speaking about certain topics. Although I don't feel like this is a philosophy channel so far, I just feel like it's me ranting, which is, I think I should not focus on being too philosophical. I should just focus on starting, and then later on I can become more serious. It's not like I'm not serious right now. I'm just saying that I can lean into more philosophical stuff. And I will be doing that when I make coherent videos, making certain arguments, which I would really appreciate if people responded. And I hope I pressed record, because I am now just considering that I might have not pressed the record button, even though I think I did, but you can't be certain when it comes to. Ah?